Kai Klupfer. He's all of 25 years old and has been working on making this gun for 10 years, a project he started shortly after the Aurora Theater shooting.
At the time, it's like the worst mass shooting in history and happened right just down the road here from where I grew up. I was fortunate enough to not have to think about gun violence or gun deaths, and that was really my first sort of encounter with the topic, right? I was just starting to grow up, just starting to think about these kind of topics as a 15-year-old, and really started to think about how could we do something about this? I started thinking about this concept of a smart gun. Right? And by no means am I the first person to think about this, obviously. And it's been in science fiction forever, but nobody had ever really built a working smart gun.
Okay, so you're 15.
Yeah.
And instead of doing some policy, you're inspired.
Yeah, I was never a policy person,
okay,
right?
You're like, I'm an engineer.
I've been forced to become a little bit more of one, over the last 10 years. But no, I was an engineer. I was a socially awkward nerd.
A bona fide nerd who clinched his nerd bona fides by getting an award at the very prestigious Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. So for people who don't know, I mean, this is like no joke. This is like thousands of the world's smartest kids.
The year I went, it was the top 1,500 out of over 8 million people who competed across the year.
Right, yeah, like this is the top of the top.
It's as high as it gets, I think, for the science fair world. At the time, I was mostly an electrical engineer, and I could sort of fake my way through some mechanical engineering, so built a pretty good electrical system and a really mechanical system. Sort of slapped them together into this kind of gun-shaped object. Not an actual firearm in any way. I wasn't allowed to bring a gun to the science fair, quite obviously. I was very surprised by all this. I'd done a lot of science fair projects before. 3/4 of the time, people didn't believe that I'd actually built them. They thought my parents had did them. I mean this in the nicest way possible. Dad, I'm sorry, but my dad needs help turning his iPad on. We'll take it slow.
After 10 years of toil, Kai is understandably proud that his business finally has a product to sell.
Cool. After you. Today we've got one of our Mark II prototypes, pre-production units of the Mars Smart Gun. So as soon as I start to interact with it, I'm going to see those white lights. The white lights basically mean that it's active. It sees that somebody's picked it up, but it hasn't recognized the user yet, so it's still locked.
To set up the gun, you register your face and fingerprints on this device in less than a minute, where you can also add and delete other users. If you're not registered, nothing.
Fingerprints are very well optimized, very commercially mature. You don't need a lot of processing power to run them appropriately. Facial recognition is a cutting edge biometric, which means it requires orders of magnitude more processing power. So where previously we were able to just use like little microcontrollers and things like that to do fingerprints, we've had to basically build an entire computer hardened for the system, that works inside of a gun to be able to run facial recognition at the speeds that our customers demand.
I've shot guns before, but I'm far